Okay, you've done your chain, you've got a little bit of muscle memory around it, you've got it so the loops aren't super tight, so they're looking pretty good, and you feel pretty comfortable with the way you're holding your hand in that weird, crazy position. So now it's time to cast on it, or sorry, to chain. In my case, I did 15 stitches. So let's take a quick peek. So you can see how big this is as compared to my hands. This was a good width for me for the cowl that we're going to end up making, okay? I liked that width. I thought that was pretty good. So I just kind of cast on as many as I wanted. In this case, it was 15 to make it perfect. So I want you to do the same thing. If you're using a 6mm crochet hook, then 15 is pretty good, or 20 if you want it thicker. If you're using a larger crochet hook, then you can probably do 10 to 15 because it's chunkier. So use your judgment and cast on as many as you like. So hit pause, go do that. Once you're done, now we are going to take this chain, and first we're going to learn to count exactly how many we did. So let's do that. All right, so I'm going to turn this so that the braid side is face up, okay? Now, the easiest way to count these is if you just count the little bulges on each side, okay? So there's one right there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, okay? The one on the crochet hook doesn't count. The reason the one on the end doesn't count is because it's going to be a turning chain, but we'll talk about that in a minute, okay? We are now ready to execute our very first single crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and pick this up, okay? Now, remember how I was telling you we were counting the bulbies, okay? I'm going to hold my work to the left and my crochet hook on the right, okay? So you crochet, if you're right-handed, in the opposite way that you read. Now, you're supposed to find the first stitch and go into it. However, if I get close, you can see that the first bulby, the first loop, already has yarn going through it. So if I tried to go in here and pull the yarn through, that doesn't make any sense. There's already yarn through that loop. So we're going to skip it. Okay, we're going to go to the next loop. See that hole on my camera right there? That is the next loop that you want to go into. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the sharp little part of the head right here, the little pointy end, and we're going to dive right in that hole and under the first little loop right there. So see, I've got one loop on there. So now I'm going to go, remember how before I was leaning in front of the yarn? Now it's easier for me to go behind and grab that loop. So I'm just going to put it in my mouth and I'm going to turn his head so it can't come out. Remember, we're going to bow, whoop, right through, just like that. Now check it out, I got 2 loops on there. That's cool. So now I'm going to lock these 2 loops off. I'm going to slide them around, make sure they're beautiful. Hang on to those 2 so they're locked. Now I'm going to lean in front and bite, and then I'm going to bow through 1 and then through 2, just like that. That is your first single crochet. Let me hold it out here, okay? So you can see directly under this single crochet is a huge big hole, okay? That hole is right here. Burp, 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 burp. Then next door to it, you can see a smaller hole, okay? That's this one right here. Okay, so you can tell by the big hole that you've already gone in the first stitch because you made a giant hole here. So now it's time to go in the next one. All right, so we got to get our crazy hands in there again. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dive into this next one like this. Okay, so we've got 2 loops just like that. I'm going to bite from behind and I'm going to bow to get through. Then I'm going to have 2 loops. I'm going to make sure they're nice and supple. I'm going to lock them off by pinching with this little pincher area right here. Then I'm going to lean from behind. I'm going to grab the yarn and I'm going to bow through both of those. Okay? Now we've got 2 Now if I pull it again like this, you can see there is a large hole on the right and a smaller hole just to the left of the large hole. So we're going to go in that one. We're going to go right under there. So I'm under one strand, just like that. I'm going to use the technical words for them instead of like bowing and biting. Okay, so we're going to yarn over. We're going to pull up one loop. Okay, we're going to make sure these are beautiful. Yarn over, pull through two loops. Just like that. Make sure this loop is nice and gorgeous. We've got a big hole and we've got a slightly smaller hole right here to the left. We're going to dive in there under one loop. Yarn over, draw up a loop. Yarn over, draw through two. Big hole where we've done it. We have one to the left. Dive in there. Yarn over, pull up a loop. Make sure it's the right size. Yarn over, go through two. Okay? And we're going to continue this way until we get all the way to the end. Dive in, yarn over, draw up a loop. Yarn over, go through two. Dive in, yarn over, draw up a loop. Yarn over, go through two. Dive in, yarn over, draw up a loop. Yarn over, go through two. Dive in, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over again, go through two. Dive in, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through two. Dive in, oops, just under one, yarn over, go through two. Okay, so let's see, we've got one right there. We're gonna dive in, yarn over again, go through two. All right, we have one left right here. Okay, can you see that? So here's the knot, and there's one space left to the left of this big loop right here. It's this little guy, right? Right there, you can kind of see my nail poking through, right there. So I'm going to dive into this guy. I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to yarn over and go through both. So now I'm going to pull a nice long loop and slip my hook out, okay? And we're going to lay this down. And we're going to count these. So I like to count the loops on the top, okay? Let me bring this a little closer. See how there's a loop on the top right here? It goes around like that. Then over here there's another one that goes around. Then this one goes around. But you know, the next loop is kind of springing out of this one right here, you know, but there they are. One, so you're going to count those little loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, okay? So I have 14 stitches right here. Now, you might be wondering where the 15th stitch is because we did cast on 15. Let me show you. This turning chain right here in the beginning counts as our first single crochet. It's hard to see right at the moment, but that's where we lose a stitch, is once you cast on 15 stitches, you lose one to a turning. So when you start to read patterns, it'll tell you crochet 15. Then the next row it'll say chain 1, crochet 15. Then it'll say chain 1, crochet 15. So it's a little bit confusing, but because you're down a row, you have to chain 1 and that one stands up like this so that you can start going along the next row. It's a little bit confusing, but it's built into the pattern so you don't ever have to think about adding any extra stitches. Just follow exactly what it says and it will get you right there. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up my work here. I'm going to put my crochet hook back in here. And I am going to chain 1, whoop, just like we were talking about. Okay, so here I am at the very end. I'm going to chain 1, which is just what we've been doing before. You just lean, you lock, lean, bite, bow. We've chained, okay? Now we're going to flip it over, whoosh, just like this. So now you're looking at the back side, okay? On the front side, along the top, you can see those loops that you counted really well. On the back side, you don't really see that loop. You kind of see the back of the loop because it's leaning the other way, okay? However, what you can see now are what I like to lovingly call dimples. there's a dimple there, dimple there, dimple, 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 dimple. See those little dimples? Oh, I might be too close to the camera. So there's a dimple, dimple. There's a little hole where all the yarn kind of falls into, okay? All right, so I've done my chain 1. Let me pull this tight. Now I'm going to go into the very first dimple. You can see if I pull it, it makes a little hole. Now there's 2 holes on camera right now. The bottom hole is not the one you want. That's the work, and it's going to keep growing down here as you go. It's the one on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put my little guy through this dimple. Now hold the phone. What's happening here? When I go through this dimple, there are now 2 strands on my crochet hook. Imagine that, okay? This is absolutely correct. Now that you have an established single crochet below this one, you're always going to go through 2 loops from here on out. The only time you go through the 1 loop is when you are doing your first row off of a chain, because the chain is just really simple. All it has is 1 loop, so you don't really have a choice. However, now we have something more substantial to bite onto. So we're under both loops, and we're just going to perform the same thing we've been doing before. We're going to bite, bow, and then we've got 2 here. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, just like this, okay? Now, we've got a dimple here. Now remember, we're only looking at the top. You can, if I pull it, you can see that there's a big hole right here that we just went through. And over here, there's a teeny tiny little hole right there. That's our next spot. So I'm going to dive into him, bloop, making sure I go through both of the loops. Okay, so I've got 2 strands on my hook. Yarn over, pull up a loop, lock it off, yarn over, go through 2. Okay. Pull this, we'll see, we can see where the big hole is on the right, and just to the left of it, right under here is the next place. So blurp, I'm gonna go right under there, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, oh, I gotta get more yarn. Ooh. Okay, sorry. Now we're gonna yarn over and we're gonna pull through 2, just like that, okay? So now next dimple, this guy right here. We're gonna go in, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. Okay, that guy's nice and big. You can tell we've worked him. He's right here. He's already been worked. So the next guy is this little teeny hole right there. You can see a little bit of daylight right through there. Okay, remember, not the one on the bottom, but the one closest to the top. We're gonna drive through there, grab it, pull it up, and we're just gonna keep going, and we're going to do a single crochet in every single dimple. Whoa, where am I? All the way across. Here's the next one. Wait. Yep, that one's in there. See, even I get confused. There's a little daylight right there. So that's the one thing that's a little bit different about crochet than knitting. Is knitting, you actually have the loops on the knitting needle, so it's super duper obvious where you need to go. In crochet, it takes a little bit of time to recognize these crazy knots and where you're supposed to shove the crochet hook into each knot. So it can be a little crazy. All right, so I've got 1 more on the end here. So let me stretch this out so you can see. See how this one kind of disappears a little bit? Don't let him trick you. He's like the ninja hanging on the edge. Crochet is very pixelated. Okay, so if you would think about blocks, you can tell by looking at this that I am not done, because there is a big chunk right here where another stitch goes. So that's another way you can tell if you're done or not. So we're going to go into this last one, and this last one's always a pain to get in. I always find myself going to kind of get through. Okay, yarn over, pull up a loop. Now check it out. Now we can tell we're done. We've got nice even sides on both areas right there, okay? All right, so we're just gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna chain 1 and I'm gonna turn, all right? So we've got this first one right here. We're gonna dive into that, drop a loop, yarn over, go through 2, all right? So let me pull this apart. You can see the big one that we already did. And then there's a little bit of daylight at the top right there. That's our next guy. Boom, go right in there, again, under both legs, yarn over, go through the loop, yarn over, go through 2. And you can see I am just constantly pulling yarn, like this just goes super fast. Okay, so again, we've got the big guy. We got a little bit of daylight right there. That's our next guy. Boom, right under, draw up a loop, yarn over, go through 2. Just like that. I'm going to go all the way to the end. And again, on this last one, he's kind of like a little ninja, like clinging to the side. I'm just gonna shove right through. I'm under both of those, good to go. Yarn over, bring it up, I'm good to go. Just like that, okay? So again, we can count these by counting the loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, whoa, 5, wait, let me start over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Perfect. So I still have 14, which is great because that means I haven't accidentally added one or accidentally forgotten one, okay? So your job now is to practice, 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 practice this, okay? So it's really easy to pull out crochet. So if you look here, if I just go bing, 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 just start pulling, it comes out, and then there'll be a 1 loop just hanging out there, and then you can put your crochet hook in there and start over. But what I really want you to do is I'd love for you to pull it out, chain your 15 again, and then turn and do a row of single crochet. Chain 1, do a row of single crochet. Chain 1, do a row of single crochet. This is really going to get your muscle memory down, and this is the main stitch that you're going to use. In a moment, we're going to talk about the double crochet, but it really is just a variation on this move. So if you really spend time practicing the single crochet, you're going to be an excellent crocheter. So do a couple of inches in single crochet. If you hate it, pull it out. It'll start to look better as you go, so you'll want to pull it out. So go ahead, pull it out, start again, and then I will meet you right back here for the double crochet.